Well, welcome everyone to the CMSA Town Hall for the Shane Holmes Grassroots League. So our U7 to U9s here on October the 28th, 2025. In the spirit of reconciliation, we want to acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Siksika, the Kainai, the Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. I'd encourage you to become curious about the elders and the stories of the Indigenous people upon which land we've settled and that we work, live, and play on today. I want to make sure that we share our mission and vision because these are something that we reflect on weekly for sure, and that we continue to try and strive towards. So our mission is about dedicated to working with our member organizations to develop, organize, and promote opportunities which allow all participants to achieve their full potential in a safe, meaningful, and inclusive environment. And our vision is really around elevating and uniting our community through soccer. We believe soccer is a powerful tool to build a great, beautiful community here in Calgary, and we want to make sure that we're committed to doing that. Our values that you can see on your screen are around leadership, stewardship, integrity, excellence, and around communication. So we fully expect that if we're not adhering to these values or living up to those values, that people are calling us out on that and that we are held to really high standards around these values. So this is what you should expect from CMSA. I'll let you read through that, or you can find this on our website as well at calgaryminersoccer.com. So again, welcome. My name is Jordan Stewart. I'm the CMSA Technical Manager. I've been in the role for coming on to 5 years now, and in that 5 years, we've seen a ton of change. We've seen a lot of alignment. We've had some bumps, some bruises, maybe gotten bloody here and there, but there's been a lot of beautiful moments as well. And I'm really, really grateful to be both leading within the game here in Calgary, but also making an impact on the game here. And so we're going to chat through tonight a lot of changes that have happened within that 5 years. Some background about me: I've grown up through the game since I started playing at about 2.5, and had some short time overseas. Played at college, and then transitioned into a coaching role where I've coached players from U4 all the way through to university age. And previous to CMSA, I worked for Alberta Soccer as their regional coach for Southern Alberta and was the Alberta Recs director. So primarily I worked with the talent ID and talent development streams within Alberta Soccer and their player development programs, while also supporting the districts in Southern Alberta and also trying to educate coaches all the way up through into a Provincial B level. I've got experience working in essentially the entire, Canadian soccer ecosystem, and especially here in Alberta, all the way from grassroots clubs in Edmonton to a former pro club from FC Edmonton and leading their under-18 group, into the PSO with Alberta Soccer, Youth National Team Development Systems, colleges, universities, community outreach, and now, right here in front of you within a district governing body with CMSA. So if there's something in the game that I haven't seen other than senior national teams and first team football within a professional sense, those are about the only two environments that I haven't been employed in here in the country quite yet. And alongside me is David Adelaja. He's a phenomenal person. I'm really, really blessed to get to work with him on a daily basis. He comes from an engineering background while also working for Calgary Southwest United with some of their players there. And David's portfolio of work with CMSA, you'll see it's somewhat diverse. He is a key component in the Shane Holmes Grassroots League that we're going to talk about tonight and where that's going in the future. Sometimes you run out of ideas and you need to bring in fresh eyes and fresh ideas. And David's someone who's got a ton of those and a lot of critical thinking skills to be able to implement as well. He's overseeing and running our soccer in schools program that's seeing CMSA be in 40 schools this year, and integrating within their phys ed curriculum to really provide a fantastic environment for kids to learn the game and be exposed to the game in a scholastic setting. He's overseeing and running the Goal Getters FC program, which is our cerebral palsy soccer program that has their first session on Saturday. So if you know of any youth with cerebral palsy that would be interested in coming out to a fantastic program led by a national leader in John Clubb, and also supported by CMSA and delivered by CMSA, it's a fantastic opportunity. So please pass this information along to them. He's also providing a ton of coach education support and is really becoming a technical department Swiss Army knife, really, because there's a ton that we try to do on a daily basis, and we're constantly throwing different things at him on a daily basis that he handles with grace. So I'm really fortunate that he's with us tonight, and really fortunate that he's joined on with CMSA as well. I want to make sure that we look back to set the scene and to then look forward. So here's a short video about what happened in 2024. We haven't finished the 2025 video yet, otherwise I'd show you that one. So let's have a quick look back before we look forward.
And with that, the 2024 season comes to an end.
And really, this last piece around thank you is genuine. Thank you for being on that journey with us if you were. And if you're new to the journey, then welcome and let's get rolling. So I'll start tonight by talking about really the most important people in the game, in my opinion, and that's the players. And while it says on your screen, Canada Soccer Player Pathway, when you say the word pathway, it typically, means a highway or some sort of roadway where it's clean and linear and it's a defined beginning and end. Really, I like to think about this as the player journey, right? And as you can see on your screen, you'll see where CMSA operates. So stages 1, 2, 3, and 7 here. And then things transition into things like APDL as the players get older, into a train to train context, and into a train to compete with, Rex programs, high performance youth programs like the Whitecaps and like Cavalry are running now with their under 18s. And from there, flowing upwards into, full MLS Academy residencies, full-time cavalry programs, youth national teams, and then, senior first team football and senior national teams up here in the train to win category. Obviously, that's not for everyone, and that's okay. Hopefully, everyone exists into these stage 7 and into this stage 5 box here, where there's potential universities, there's colleges, there's NCAA, there's UWS, there's League One here in Alberta now, and a plethora of opportunity here in Calgary. And still, if you're playing as an adult, then you're flowing up into CUSA and Calgary Women's. Maybe it's Major League, or maybe it's just in a recreational community league that's also operated by CUSA and Calgary Women's. But tonight, we're going to really focus on pretty well stages 2 and a little bit into stage 3. And sorry about the horrible box there on your screen, but 2 and 3 is where we're going to focus tonight. Okay. You would have all registered for a club. And so what we do is we produce what's called the program handbook, and we give this to the clubs about, 4 to 6 months out from a season start so that they can build their registration packages off of that. And what I would ask you to do is to find this on our website. It's under League, Rules and Forms. It's the second tab once you're there. And I want you to compare that against your club's registration info and ask yourself 2 questions. Is it accurate in terms of your club's registration info? And is it aligned in terms of your club registration info, if you can still find it or if you can remember that? If it's not, I want you to ask the next question, why? And start digging for that answer, because it's a really important answer to start to find out. And so some of us might be brand new to this and might be asking, well, wait a minute, I thought CMSA was the club and I thought you organized soccer. Well, we want to make sure that there's clarity in what CMSA does and what your club does. So from a scheduling standpoint, CMSA schedules the matches, or for the Shane Holmes Grassroots League, the match days. Okay, that's what we do. Your club is going to organize all of the practices, all the training sessions, all of that piece for your child or for your child's team. Okay, so we don't have the practice schedules, nor do we have access to those. You need to contact your club for those. In terms of placement, CMSA works with the member clubs to put all the teams in the most fitting divisions. Okay, and I'll briefly touch on what that looks like for the rest of the game. Not necessarily within the U7s to 9s. Your club places your child onto a team within their club, okay? Some clubs do this differently. Some clubs will mix up the players each match day. Some clubs will keep predetermined groups and teams together. We'll talk about that a little bit tonight and where CMSA stands with that. From a coaching standpoint, we put coaches through formal coach training in terms of practical sessions, and we also set the standards for coach education locally while building that with our clubs. It's the club's job to find and retain and develop the coaches. Okay, so you'll notice that there's specific language here. Develop is different than formal coach training. Education is different than development. Okay, education can be a one-time thing in terms of a course. Development is ongoing, it's mentorship, it's continual, it's evaluated. Your club needs to be doing those things with coaches. CMSA, we provide all of the U7 to U9 Grassroots League jerseys from Shane Holmes. Phenomenal sponsor, a tremendous partner of the game here in Calgary. And it's only for the clubs who order them. So the clubs that want into the program, they're in. They get the jerseys provided, okay? From a very, very generous sponsor. The club orders all the jerseys for the U10 to U19 leagues, or if they're not participating in the Shane Holmes jerseys, okay? So you may or may not have Shane Holmes jerseys. You need to check with your club, okay? There's still boxes in our office of clubs needing to come pick them up. So hopefully before match day on Saturday, they get there and they get those distributed. Another core piece of the game that you may or may not be aware of and that I want to touch on and explain the impacts that this has had is called club licensing. And what club licensing is it's a set of criteria that Canada Soccer's put all of the clubs through and that the clubs need to satisfy. There's different stages that the clubs go through in terms of their club licensing. And there's 4 stages. SQS has about 32 criteria that the clubs need to satisfy, okay? The clubs might not satisfy every single one of those right now, but the ones that they don't, they have an action plan that they need to be working towards that they then are auditing, that Canada Soccer's auditing against that action plan, okay? National Youth Club license holders have to satisfy 142 criteria, or have action plans to satisfy those to meet those criteria, okay? What I want to really ensure everyone understands is this is not about these clubs are better than these clubs. Not at all. These clubs have different criteria that they need to satisfy and different things that they need to do. Okay? It can also be clubs might be working towards two other levels that aren't here yet in terms of MA1 and MA2, which are different levels or different stages of the club licensing. Okay? What I would say is that if you say, or if you're looking at this going, oh, I'm not at one of the clubs that's along the top of the screen, that's fine. Ask yourself a couple of questions. Does your child love the coaches? Does your child love the playing environment? Does your child love their teammates? If you answer all yes to that, you have no reason to be moving anywhere anytime soon. Okay? What club licensing has done is it's brought in coaching standards and minimum coaching standards for all of the coaches within CMSA. Okay, you'll see two levels, a modified safe sport roster and a full safe sport roster. And I'm going to work through what both of those are with you now. A modified safe sport roster is satisfying these up here. So a police clearance with vulnerable sector search, respect in sport activity leader, and then the appropriate theory course that's attached to the age and stage of players that they're working with. So for tonight's sake, it would be this one here, fundamentals. We highly recommend that coaches also do the practical, okay? At other ages, which you would have seen, U12 and above, they have to do all of these, right, depending on the age and stage, and then they complete these additional safe sport roster requirements down here on the bottom. But for the sake of tonight, we'll glaze over that. And so what kind of impact did this have? Well, it now makes CMSA monitor this much closer, and that coaches need to be trained to be eligible on the rosters, okay? Clubs now also have to be accountable, because what they used to do is they used to put the technical director on every single roster who's completed all the training and then say, well, someone on the roster is eligible. Well, we know that that technical director is not at 7 games at once in 3 different locations in the city. So it's about doing what's right, not what's easy. Okay, and the clubs that are willing to adhere to basic standards will have longevity in the game here, and the clubs that don't want to will definitely find a difficult path. And so these coaching standards, we've developed a little table to help try to guide our coaches and guide parents. And previously in CMSA, this is what we asked. We asked for just a police clearance and respect in sport. Now what we're asking is also completing that theory course, so an online theory that costs $31.50 from Canada Soccer. Actually, it might be less for the fundamentals. I think it's $21.50 or something. And then we're also encouraging them to do the practical, where they come and they work with a learning facilitator for 3 hours. They get some more tools in their toolbox and they become a better coach from that. We're seeing much greater coach uptake in terms of the practical sessions. So if you're a coach on this call right now, I would encourage you to be enrolling in the appropriate age and stage course and practical. And the list is on your screen, and all of these registrations can be found on our Demisphere website. Okay, all open. There's some female-only courses as well in November that we would encourage female coaches to be taking, and to be really trying to not only better yourself, but then in turn you're bettering all the players that you work with and impact on a daily basis. In terms of some informal pieces, we offer a technical culture series, which is going to see Rich Fagan from the Vancouver Whitecaps and Vancouver Rise Academy coming out next week to be organizing a session in person. But we also do some live webinars as well with both nation-leading experts and also international experts. So I wanted to highlight 2 that we've done in recent past. Around Martin Vlick. Martin Vlick was the head of the Czech FA coach education and methodology, where he's trying to upskill coaches, and he's trying to share what UEFA is doing from an A license and a pro license level, and that methodology into our local Calgary coaches, and trying to give them a different look and some different ideas in how they can produce high quality environments. And also, I'd like to point out another one around Chris McKaig. Chris McKaig was a local coach here. He became a FIFA licensed agent at the time, one of only 11 in Canada. And he was gracious enough to spend about 90 minutes with us and a bunch of parents explaining the business side of football at the end of the day and how transfers work, when players can leave and move and sign professional contracts, what questions parents should be asking about agents, about environments, about good developmental programs. And I would highly recommend you find this on our YouTube account and give it a watch. If you think my child would like to play professionally one day, well, this is mandatory viewing for you. There's also other bits that we advocate for and we try to push around the MLS coach education, and then Making Headway is a concussion series that's undergone a massive refresh and is genuinely world class. That's been rewritten by international leaders in the international consensus statement on concussions, some located right here in Calgary. I'll continue moving, okay, because David hasn't flagged anything in the chat for me yet that I need to come up for air and look to address. There's questions. There's always pre-questions around parent behavior and around expectations there. And I want to make sure everyone's aware of the codes of conduct that we have. So this would be the coach's code of conduct that's located in the CMSA rules and regs. I'm not going to read through it all because you can readily find this in our rules and regs. And if you're not reading our rules and regs, I would definitely encourage you to begin because it gives you a ton of information on the expectations and also what happens within CMSA. Parents, you also have a code of conduct. And players, if you're on the call as well, there's a code of conduct for you as well. So this addresses many of the issues. So if we can live above the line and we can live by these values and codes of conduct, we're going to have a great season. I guarantee it. Because once we're done here tonight, all of you are going to be champions. You're going to know what the expectation is, and you are going to set the standard of what's acceptable and not acceptable. And I leave this image on the screen because really, when we lower ourselves to become negative and have poor sporting behaviors, well, really, we're just wrestling with pigs, and the pigs love it, but you just get covered in, well, you know what, right? So can we elevate ourselves from wrestling with pigs? Can we be good sporting role models? Can we support our children? And can we cheer and not critique? And that's really the takeaway message, especially from the field marshal's perspective. In the U7 to U9, there aren't field marshals, right? We have CMSA staff on site, but you might have older children who are U10 and plus, that there are field marshals at those games. And really it's about having an empowered individual to speak up on behalf of the referee amongst fellow parents and spectators. And I see parents have a laugh at this when I go to games. Oh, someone's yelling, oh, the field marshal should go talk to them. Yeah, ha, ha, ha. It's not really a joke. This is a key role. And we're going to start to build out better education and better monitoring around the field marshal piece. But I wanted to leave it here tonight as an awareness of what's happening in years to come for you and your children. Two other pieces, and I promise I'm going to get into the good stuff, okay? Global initiatives within CMSA. One is Empower Her, and the other one is around the Teal Shirt campaign and what we're doing for our referees, okay? Empower Her is our Women and Girls in Soccer initiative. And what we've done, we've launched She Can Ref, which is in partnership with the CDSRA, where we are trying to connect female referees with female referee mentors and to try and have a safe space for female officials to develop through and also to connect with others and feel empowered through as well. We put on 2 female-only entry-level courses as well to attract female officials to the game. And our gender gap is quickly closing from a female officiating standpoint. It's actually a great thing to see. We're putting on female-only coaching courses, and on March 6th, we're going to have a Free Soccer Friday in honor of International Women's Day 2026 that is a girls-only event. So boys, you can stay home. You can attend any of the rest of the Free Soccer Fridays freely, obviously, and go from there. Around the referees, we're adding extra entry-level courses to build up a quantity of referees so that when your children get to the age where you have referees at your games, you have enough referees and also enough good referees. So we hear that we need more referees and we need better referees. So what we're trying to do about the better referees is we're trying to have the teal shirt campaign that acknowledges these new referees are brand new and they're going to make mistakes. On their shirt, it literally says first year referee. That means they're not perfect. No one is, but especially these first year referees. And to acknowledge that and to make sure that we have support for them, we have a robust mentorship program where they're paired with senior officials. They're going through free monthly education sessions as well. And then to try to curb the abuse, well, we have a zero tolerance policy around abuse of the officials. So I'll leave it at that in a short form. But one other key piece that I want to highlight for everyone is around Project Ref with Kids Sport. And Project Ref is a phenomenal program that if your children receive kids sport funding to participate, they can actually go and do entry-level refereeing courses completely free. They get all of their gear free and they get any subsequent upgrading free as well. Okay, once they become 12 years old, they can look to go and become what's called a mini ref. So your kids, while they're not that young right now, or they're not that old right now, they will obviously get older, and that can be a fantastic opportunity for them to develop crucial life skills like communication, conflict de-escalation, leadership, and also just general confidence. Some of the best young people that I meet are young referees right now. I'll highlight two events as well. Santa Soccer Saturday, which we'll highlight a bit later, is at the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome, where all of the locations can come on December 13th. It's a great holiday event. We'll have the inflatable pitches. We'll have a great time. The music will be going. It's an opportunity to donate to the food bank and kids sport as well, and really connect the community around the holiday season. And then also the Family Day Classic is obviously a tournament that we run through the indoor season. And while I'm not sure if the U9s will be invited or able to participate, if you've got older players in your household, that's a decent opportunity for them as well. I promise I'm getting close to the good stuff. Thank you for keeping with us and for listening to all of these pieces. Free Soccer Friday. Free Soccer Friday is maybe one of my favorite programs that CMSA runs. Free Soccer Friday is a drop-in soccer opportunity where kids come in an unstructured environment. What does unstructured mean? Well, it means we leave the goals out, we leave balls out, pennies, cones, we leave a bunch of equipment out and we say, go. They create their own games. They make their own teams. They do what they want in that time. It's not coached. And for as long as I'm at CMSA, it won't be coached. We have lots and lots of clubs that say, hey, we want to come and run a session for Free Soccer Friday. No. No, this is about giving the game back to kids. And it's about connecting the community as well. Because what we see when we're there is we see kids that develop advocacy skills. Hey, I haven't been on the field very, very long, or I haven't been on in a while. I want to play. They go and meet new friends. They learn to adapt to new social situations. They learn how to deal with conflict and how to work through problems. And while it's a good social, inclusive soccer program and endeavor that is unbelievably well received, it's crazy the numbers that show up for them, it's also a talent development scheme. Because key threads in talent development research around the world have common themes. Those common themes are around unstructured environments, access to facilities, mixed age play, and lack of adult interference. So if you think about that, our soccer system does the exact opposite. We have lots of adult interference. We put them in their own age groups. We limit their access to facilities to just their training time, and we highly structure the environment. So this is a phenomenal opportunity for kids to develop through as well, and to provide extra training on their own, not coach-led, through winter months especially. Upcoming dates, obviously one of them is passed, but they're usually the first 3 Fridays of every month, and I would encourage you to check the CMSA website for all of those upcoming dates, sign the waivers, get out. I'm going to begin taking my 5-year-old son on a Friday to just kick a ball around with him and to just connect and bond and interact with him, as opposed to watching him sit there with YouTube yelling influencers filling his head full of some sort of brain rot. I'll make you aware of this. Games go on, essentially no matter what in the winter. It can be cold, the games continue, okay? Unless the city of Calgary closes roads due to those winter conditions, okay? So that's the adverse driving conditions policy. We always have people who try and call in on a Saturday morning and say, are the games still on? Well, the office line is closed and nobody's monitoring the email during that time. So yes, the games go on unless the roads are closed. I've given you one call to action so far. My second call to action is this. It's around Fields for Our Future. And while we've just had a municipal election, this is an incredibly important campaign that CMSA is leading on behalf of the soccer community here. Fields for Our Future is really around addressing the lack of soccer infrastructure that this city has. Because we are very close to saying we don't have any more room when the indoor seasons come around. How we manage to shoehorn all of these games in is beyond me. It's absolutely amazing how Rachel and Kim do it. And we're continuing to experience tremendous growth, okay? That 222 games that were rained out last season was actually from Outdoor 2024. We had almost 500 games that were rained out in 2025. So these year-round facilities also alleviate some of our outdoor playing concerns as well. And what are the solutions that we're advocating for through this campaign? Well, we want to see field houses built, not just bubbles, but field houses as well. And we want to be making sure that we are included in the design and in the concept of these soccer spaces. Okay, we want to collaborate with the city on this, and we also want to be enhancing existing infrastructure to bring up the spaces that we currently have to modern standards and better playability and safety for the players. Okay, where has this campaign gone? Well, if you are a member or a supporter, thank you so much. If you are not, get your phone out, because on the next slide, you're going to have a chance to sign up through a QR code. So the expectation is that if only 5% of our database is signed up right now, we are failing. And so on this call, there's 35 of you-ish, right? What's 5% of that? It's not a ton. So there's lots of you on this call that haven't signed up. The ask is not enormous. The ask is not enormous. You'll get an email from the campaign that'll have a click-through link that says, let the elected officials know. Click the link. It has a pre-populated email. If you don't like that one, you hit regenerate. It regenerates it, and it sends it to your elected officials in your area. This process literally takes 10 seconds. 10 seconds. And you can change the future of soccer in Calgary by a small time investment, okay? Your kids are especially going to be impacted by facilities. This is going to be the number one issue in their soccer journey throughout CMSA and their youth soccer career. So if you don't invest now, you're going to go through this meat grinder of youth sport, and when you come out on the other side, you're going to say, man, I really wish we had some more fields. Really wish I would have listened to that guy who was yammering on all night on that town hall. So very, very important. Here's the QR code. Join the movement. Sign up as a supporter. Let the elected officials know that soccer is a priority and that the infrastructure needs to be prioritized in things like game plan through the City of Calgary and also through federal and provincial funding. I'll leave that there for a sec and I'll come up for air, have a look in the chat. Perfect. Thanks so much, David, for adding those links as well. Great stuff. Really appreciate that. Cool. How do we make your schedule? I'm sure there's some people here that are annoyed by their schedule. Here's how it's done. Okay, I'm going to briefly go through this. We ask for all the clubs to put their team entry in. Team entry happens in early September for indoors. So the clubs give us essentially all of the teams that they think they're going to have. They say, we're going to have 3 teams there, 1 team there, blah, 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 blah. Then what we do is we bring all of the clubs in. All the technical leaders sit in a room and we put up all of the teams on a screen and we say, right, are your teams going to have meaningful competition in these leagues the way that they sit? Or are there teams in these leagues that should be moved up or moved sideways, moved down, etc.? And they are the ones who help to co-create the leagues. Because listen, of the I think there's over 6,000 games in CMSA through the indoor season. If I make it out to 1% of those, I made it out to 65 games. That's a stretch. So we rely on the collective knowledge of all of the technical leaders who are at the fields all the time to then be helping us to co-create these leagues. Okay? And while the Shane Holmes Grassroots League is a little different because it's regionalized, the technical leaders in the clubs have a different responsibility, and we'll talk about that tonight. Obviously, then we finalize the divisions. We send it back out to them. We say, did we miss anyone? Is there any mistakes in this? And they go, yep, looks good. And then we bring it back and we compare it against the field permits that we get. We do not get consistent field permits from the city of Calgary or from other venues that we rent. Okay? Then the jigsaw puzzle gets to work. And so Kim and Rachel, 2 amazing women in our organization, build the schedule. It takes them a few weeks to build the schedule. And someone on here is going to say, well, why don't you just put it in a program and hit run and then it's all done? Well, we do. And it still takes a few weeks of them manipulating it, analyzing it, making sure that Blizzard and Rockies aren't playing down at the Calgary Soccer Center for their game if there's time available at the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome because their parents and families live up there, etc., etc. So they really try to do a great job and to make this schedule as equitable as possible. Someone on here is going to say, well, our U7s have a 7:45 kickoff every single week. And we're going to say, yeah, we know. And we're sorry. But in order for them to go at 7:45 and then at 11 and then at 9 and then all over the place requires a tremendous amount of logistics and field setup and field changes that you're going to see on Saturday. So feasibly, it's very difficult to do. We also hear the feedback from a lot of parents that they want consistency in their schedule. They want consistency so that they can plan their life around it. And while you might not have that exact detail upon registering months ago, we're trying to give people a heavy amount of consistency within their schedule, especially with the 7s to 9s. Okay? As I say, the ladies manipulate it, then all of the reschedules come in because there's tournaments, there's whatever going on, and then they do it all over again every single season. Okay? Massive process. I'll talk as well about age exemptions because I guarantee you there will be age exempt players within the U7 to U9 Shane Holmes Grassroots League. Formerly, this was called biobanding. And what is biobanding? Well, biobanding is the practice of grouping players based on their biological maturation or their physical maturation, not based on their chronological age. So let's layman's terms that one. It's based on how you're growing, not how old you are. Okay? It allows for a flexible player placement process where if a player is maybe significantly smaller than their peers, is new to soccer, has a developmental impairment, has a ride share, that they simply cannot get to the game because they have a single mother who works 4 jobs and they have to go with their cousin to the game. Well, this is the way it is, right? We're trying to keep these kids playing and in as best an environment as we possibly can. So we have a process by which we evaluate this. We ask for development plans from the clubs when they're doing this, and we have basic expectations that when this is being abused, the privilege gets taken away from the club instantly. They can no longer use it, and all of these players need to find rosters then at their appropriate ages. Obviously, some players being age exempt because they don't have a roster at that age. So it's a massive implication if clubs start to monkey around a little bit and fiddle with this in a negative way. Our process is around this, and while I'm not going to spend a ton of time, this is on our website and you can look it up. Essentially, is there another environment that they can play at? Yes or no? Cool. Submit the development plan. Have they tried to rehome the player at another club? Yes or no? Submit the development plan. If they haven't even gone through that effort, they better not even be submitting the application. Okay? We want the clubs to be working in the player's best interest and in alignment with the UNCRC, so the Charter of Rights of the Child, to make sure that they're not just doing this to try and keep kids at their club and keep registrations at their club. Not the intent. Okay? This is maybe the quietest group that we have had across all of the town halls. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Just the chat's really quiet and kind of surprisingly quiet. And thank you for sending an email to the MLAs. That's great. Keep them going. Keep them going with the Fields for Our Future. Okay, the Shane Holmes Grassroots League. Let's do this. Let's talk about what the key changes are. I'll give you the brief overview, and then I'm going to dive into the rationale, okay? Key changes, mixed ability groups, okay? We've built this collaboratively with our member clubs. Our club technical leaders have sat in the room and gone, yep, we will have mixed ability groups. Do you know when it becomes really hard to have mixed ability groups? When parents get involved. Because parents think that we need to have the best kids with the best kids. We'll talk about this. But I'll leave it there for now. You'll also see some location modifications slightly, okay, and maybe timings as well, and bigger pitches for this indoor. We've, especially at the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome, okay, we've rejigged some things and we'll get there. So what are we doing? What's changed? Why is CMSA doing this the way that we're doing this? Okay, so in a festival format that's aligned to Canada Soccer, why are we doing it this way? Well, what you see on your screen is a whole bunch of colored lines, okay? What those colored lines are player participation numbers by age groups through seasons, okay? Here's the trends. And while we haven't put in indoor 24-25 or outdoor 25 yet into this bar chart, you'll see largely decreases, okay? The next part of our analysis, I'm being transparent with everyone, is to look at, since we have changed to this festival format, did our retention go up or did our retention go down? Is it keeping players in the game longer? Is it leading to better outcomes? So we're going to continue to evaluate this and look at this, okay? So we knew something had to change when we set this course. We knew something had to change because clearly retention was an issue. I want to be really clear. This increase here was around a policy and governance process that forced clubs to register their house league players within CMSA. Okay, so here they didn't, and then you'll see a pretty dramatic jump. Okay, that's because they had to finally start being honest and saying how many players were actually in their clubs. Okay, so we weren't keeping players in the game longer, and we knew that. And we also knew this data is about 10, 12-ish years old now, so I'm going to redo the data. But we knew that we weren't producing elite level professional players. And I used to joke with parents that, like, hey, if your kid wants to play pro, move to Costa Rica, learn how to speak Spanish, and enjoy surfing, because that's your best chance in CONCACAF right now. Is go down to Costa Rica. Okay, so we were statistically the worst in the industrialized world at developing soccer players. But statistically, we're actually 10th in the world in the number of youth players we have here in Canada. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, what did we know? We knew that we needed to try and change things. Because we don't smoke on airplanes anymore. Obviously, that's changed for the better. Coca-Cola is not medicine, right? And we put seatbelts around our young kids when they're in the car. There's no longer the station wagon with the shelf where you can lay down and have a nap while you drive out to the mountains, right? You have a seatbelt. There's car seats. There isn't just beds for kids to lay on. We're not smoking in the car with the windows up anymore, right? At least I hope not. And we knew that we couldn't just change for the sake of changing this side to just see what would happen. We knew we needed to improve. We had to improve things. We had to make it better. So what did we try to do? Well, we knew that the current structure didn't facilitate the achievement of objectives like providing sport for all, soccer for life, or developing elite athletes, right? And that concern was amplified over and over and over again from a lot of governing bodies, from a lot of sports. And we knew we needed to change, but we also needed to know that we needed to acknowledge that Calgary exists in a somewhat unique culture. We are very innovative here. We are very entrepreneurial. We are very independent. We're very stubborn. We're very hardworking here in Calgary. We're also very giving. And it's a beautiful city to be a part of. And we knew that if we could get the right mental, social, and emotional climate for players and for kids to develop in, that physical and tactical and technical outcomes would come. Because our culture is fantastic when it's at its best. And from there, we'll have participation, progression, and then into performance. We know this. And we need to acknowledge, though, that we are just one part of a very, very, very complex system. And that we can only influence what we can influence. Okay? So we take this very seriously from a systems lens, and to try and influence then the environment and to then help to support the personal layer. Okay? And I want you to reflect, or maybe if you want, populate the chat if you wish, that Canada soccer is moving in a way that is eliminating tryouts and tiering of young kids. But I guarantee you some people on this call had their 7 or 8-year-old child be put through some sort of assessment and then put in a group or a tier or whatever program that your club's trying to ram down your throat or sell you. So I want you to answer the question, how do you believe your club or coaches select players? What do you think their evaluation criteria is? And I'll have a quick sip. Next time I'll do a poll, so you have to answer. Well, what it was is 50% of the coaches said it was just skill. Just subjective and perceived skill from a largely untrained volunteer that is selecting players. And saying, ooh, these are the good ones over here. These are the bad ones. Let's separate them and get them going on 2 different paths. Here's the problem. Literally all of the research around talent ID, talent development, talent selection shows absolutely no correlation between skill and performance at these ages that these kids are becoming and elite level performance. Zero correlation. So the question has to be asked, why in the world are we tiering kids and selecting kids and streaming them at these young ages? Why? Because that traditional model of just choosing a select number of players based on their performance right now, putting them into a team, and then competing against other likability teams is flawed in the following ways. Doesn't accurately predict potential or future performance. It's going to turn away, not often, I believe it does turn away players who might have high potential, but who might just be inexperienced at that moment relative to your peers. And I want you to take a case study or two here. There's a boy that plays at Cavalry now, who was a tier 3 player for the longest time, growing up. He signed a pro deal. Vanessa Gilles, our starting center back for our women's national team, didn't start playing soccer until she was 16 years old. She plays at the highest level. I want you to think about that. Early selection prior to physical maturation implies early exclusion of the majority and can discourage players who might otherwise become as good or better if they're given the time and a chance to develop in a high-quality environment. And the characteristics that define talented athletes in early ages are not the characteristics that define elite athletes later in their career. Think about the big early developing kid that's faster, stronger. Maybe they play more in their backyard with their dog and go 1v1 against their dog all day long. That might not be what an elite athlete looks like later on. Okay? So this is about retention and development for us. And we as parents have an expectation. We expect that our child's development is a straight line. It's linear. There's constant progression, and that there is a defined beginning and a defined end point. Here's the reality, though. That's what their journey is going to look like. Up, down, left, right, backwards, forwards, stopping, starting. It's non-linear. And that's why there's a segment of teaching called non-linear pedagogy. How we teach and coach in non-linear developmental systems. Important. Do your clubs ever talk about non-linear pedagogy development with their coaches? Do you know anything about that? Have you become curious about that maybe now? And then you're going to go to training and go, I wonder if the coach is working in that manner or if they think it's all linear. Awareness for you. And that there's obviously a disconnect. And sometimes this disconnect fuels angst and resentment, confusion. And it sometimes eliminates a lot of joy because you can only imagine the maze on the right that you're trying to get out of and find that soccer for life or that university scholarship or that pro deal or that whatever. We want the majority of these kids to become beer league players in over 35. That's success. And success for these coaches is to never be a child's last coach. That's the mentality. Never be a kid's last coach. And if we have that mentality, we're going to have positive developmental settings. Okay? Psychological and physical safety. I'd ask yourself to reflect. Is your child's environment psychologically and physically safe? Is there an appropriate structure? We influence some of that. Are there supportive relationships? And are there opportunities to belong and to become a part of a group and a team? Are there positive social norms, or is it very masculine and gladiatorial and kill or be killed type of sport within your child's environment? Hopefully not. Is there support for efficacy and mattering? Can they learn to master skills on their own and feel inspired to do so? Are there opportunities to build their skills? And is the club aware that they're trying to integrate family and school and community into these efforts? Because if they're doing this, oh my goodness, what an amazing chance these kids have. Amazing chance. And I want to make sure that we're aware here of what we are about to enter. There's no scores, no standings on a Saturday with this. And listen, the kids are smart. They keep score. They'll come off the field and they'll go, oh, we won 5-2. They'll do it. We don't have to care about that because kids compete. And I guarantee you, these kids here are competing, whether they have shoes on or not, whether there's a formal scoreboard or not, whether they're in athletic attire or not, they are competing. And we need to be really careful as adults to not compare. Not compare team to team, club to club, my child against that child. We're comparing our child versus them yesterday, not against the overall pool. Because when you start doing that, you're going to have all of your joy stolen. And comparison is the thief of joy. So I want you to be aware of that. I want you also to be aware of this. We think sometimes that competition is the role of master. Well, when it is, it doesn't serve the athlete in their long-term development. The training environment is where development happens. The games program is the test at the end of their studies. It's the math test at the end of the week. Just to see where they're at. To have a kick around, to enjoy the game, to enjoy competition. That's where it is. And so what's guiding all of this? Well, LTPD did, and that was from 2008, 2009. You can research this and find this document online. And what LTPD did was it provided a framework for national sporting organizations to be implementing in sport. That has evolved into the Canada Soccer Grassroots Standards. And we at CMSA are aligning to this maybe harder than anyone else in the country. This is backed by best practice and research. And so what did we do? Well, we set about analyzing what we produce against the Canada Soccer Grassroots Standards. Okay? 4 categories: compliant, not compliant, we need dispensation, or it's not even applicable to CMSA. And this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like, and I'm being transparent with everyone. I want you to focus on these 2 columns, okay? You'll see plenty that are not applicable, like practice to match ratios. So if your U9 child is being asked to do 4 and 5 sessions a week by whatever club, find another club. It's that simple. Find another club. If they're asked to train for 2 and 3 hours at a time, find another club. There's plenty in this city to choose from. Right? It talks about memorable events like tournaments and such. Well, yeah, 2 per season. That would be great. That doesn't mean 2 down to Las Vegas and Portugal. Maybe that means the Family Day Classic in CMSA and the one in Red Deer is a fun travel one for the kids, right? Like, let's be realistic. Let's be conscious of this. I'm going to be transparent as well. We do not currently adhere to Canada Soccer's maximum goal sizes. You'll see a 3x5 pop-up goal is what they ask for the U7s. We play with a 4x6. We play with a 4x6 because when we purchased them, we purchased 220 of them from overseas and had an entire sea can shipped over. You can imagine what expense that is to try and redo based on a foot of width and a foot of height. Okay? We're working with Canada Soccer. We'll be asking for dispensation on that. You'll see as well the goals for the U8s and U9s. We don't adhere to that currently. Okay? I'm being transparent. You'll see as well that we don't adhere to the field sizes because in indoor we have facility constraints that don't allow us to give our U8s and U9s a 25 by 30 meter field. We just don't. We just don't. And I would love to. I want to so bad. But we aren't there yet. You will see everything else compliant except for this down here in terms of a retreat line. We will be instituting a retreat line in outdoor for the Grassroots League. Okay? At the halfway line. That's coming. It requires a significant amount of education and change management. We're not quite there yet. But you'll see dribble and pass in for restarts. So the second your coach says, no, we're going to do throw-ins today, I hope one of you parents will go, wait a minute. Have you read the Grassroots Standards? Have you watched a webinar? Have you read the modified laws of the game? Have you read one of the 15 emails that CMSA has sent? If the answer is no to all of that, boof, find another club. Because clearly they don't care. You'll see here, match day format in a festival format, and we're going to get into that here shortly. I know I've gone a little bit longer. This is important pieces. The backside of the Grassroots Standards, this is where we're at, okay? You'll see lots of pieces not applicable to the club. You'll see player to coach ratios, right? You'll see fair playing time for all players, and players play all positions. We have a massive problem in developing goalkeepers right now, because what happens? Coaches put the goalkeeper in goal at U9, and the goalkeeper doesn't leave goal until they leave the game. They haven't spent any time developing any other goalie or exposing any other kids to that position, that then everyone goes, we need to change the rules because we don't have any goalkeepers. Well, sure, we can help with that, but let's look at the core root of the problem. Okay? You'll see here, open rosters, which we'll talk about. You'll see teams can't be formed using tryouts. Shouldn't be evaluated. Tiering of players doesn't happen before U10. Your club should not be tiering the players or evaluating them. I cannot reinforce that enough. Okay? Now, why do we play small-sided games, right? Because if you look back onto here, right, you'll see match formats. You'll see match formats of 3v3, sorry that it's covered up, 4v4 and 5v5, okay? So why do we play small-sided games? Well, research backs it, number one, from a quantitative and a qualitative perspective. And so Manchester United did a 4v4 pilot scheme with the FA and the Manchester Metropolitan University. Here's what they did. They played 5 different formats of the game. They played a 2-goal game with no goalkeepers. And you'll see the number of passes, scoring attempts, goals, 1v1 encounters, dribbling skills, etc. in each of these formats. Line ball, where it's dribble or pass over a line, much like American football would look, that you end up in an end zone to score. Goalkeeper game, 2 goals with a goalkeeper. Or a 4-goal game, where you attack 2 goals and you defend 2 goals. You will see in every single format, it was far superior to 8v8. So someone on the call here tonight is going to go, well, wait a minute. Edmonton plays 7-a-side at U9. Why is Calgary always different? Why do we do things different? What I would say is be grateful you're not in Edmonton. Be grateful your children have got a better experience right now. Be grateful that they have a better opportunity. Right? Like, the data backs it. Quantitatively, 500% more goals are scored. There's 225% more 1v1 encounters. That leads to better ball control, better decision making, more skillful players. Long term. Long term. Qualitatively, all of the parents, all of the players, the club directors, etc. were given a survey. This is the comments. The piece that always intrigues me is that parents were the lowest. Parents are the harshest critics. So we hope that you can see some of the value and that you can understand why we're doing what we're doing. Because we're trying to live under the philosophy of if you live local, you play local. And we're trying to keep the game as close to you for as long as humanly possible. Okay? So it's quadrant-based with open rosters. I said I'll talk about the open rosters, and I will. Small-sided games, 3v3, 4v4, 5-a-side, maximizes touches, and it maximizes playing time. When we set out on this project to change it from the old format was this. A roster of 12 kids would show up and play 3v3. 3 players on against 3 players. What are the other 9 and 9, 18 players doing? They're sat there watching. They're not developing at all. In this format, with smaller rosters, with small-sided games, maximizing our facilities, we actually have 3.16 times more playing time for players now. We didn't triple the cost either, okay? Because playing time is incredibly important. We know that. Hence why we advocate for fair playing time, right? We also want to try and foster a sense of community and connection, because that sense of community is necessary to establish the social climate to motivate children to develop. And that we know that the overly competitive nature of sport can undermine that sense of community, especially in youth sport leagues, where now it's, I don't like her, or I don't like that parent, or I don't like those kids because they're rough. We don't need to worry about that. We're taking away a bit of the competitive nature from an adult lens, but still allowing the children to compete. And that when we are too serious, it's going to take away all of the playfulness. And the game has to be playful at these ages for these kids. And it has to be the same from adults as well. So what is it going to look like? Well, as I've already said, you've got dribble or pass in, right? In 3v3s. And they're going to play 3 mini matches that are 15 minutes long. They're going to rotate around, right, after they play a match. Or they might stay on the field. So I'm really sorry, parents. You might have to move from field to field to field. Really sorry. Or you can sit there and watch from afar and let your child enjoy the game without adult interference. Because the surveys that came out of COVID from kids were around, we actually liked not having the adult pressure. I'm not saying everyone's bad. I'm just saying that there's an added pressure. When a team scores in U7 and U8, go back, touch your own goal. It gives the other team an opportunity to pick the ball out of their goal and start to play. Okay? Obviously, that's going to change in outdoor when a retreat line comes in, but for right now, that's what we're looking at. You'll see the U8s, the same as the U7s, except for a 4v4. It says no goalkeeper. We get this all the time. There's kids that love to play in goal. I don't understand it. I don't know what goes through their mind that they want to stand in front of a ball being shot at them. I don't get it. It wasn't me, but it was my brother. If a kid wants to stand in the mini goal and play in goal, let them. Let them. We as adults don't need to ruin that child's Saturday morning by saying, no, get out of goal, get out of goal. And you don't have to write me an email saying, this team plays with a goalkeeper. Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Let them play in goal if they want to play in goal. It's not that big of a deal. Well, it's harder for our team to score. Yeah, you're right. So your kids are going to get a different developmental outcome then in terms of trying to shift the game and trying to score on the weak side, trying to beat a player 1v1 in goal. That's different. It's harder. You're right. You're right. And that's okay. The U9s, they've got a 5-a-side format with a goalkeeper that, if you're following Canada Soccer's Grassroots Standards, is rotating through and players are playing all positions, right? Dribble or pass-ins to restart. You'll see no throw-ins. 2 25-minute matches they'll have formal kickoffs after goals, and they have a no scores, no standings environment. Okay? The schedule. The schedule looks like this. These are all the match days. Okay? The locations, the groupings in terms of player groupings, you will see on your screen. The locations look like this. Northeast will play at the Genesis Center. Northwest is Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome. And Central and South is the Calgary Soccer Center. The clubs that are at each location are on your screen. Okay? All the Northeast girls groups are going to the Calgary Soccer Center because, unfortunately, we don't have a volume of female players in the northeast of Calgary to sustain any sort of meaningful competition up there. It's a travesty that we are trying to work on with clubs up there to try and fix that. Okay? But they will be going down there. You will probably have gotten emailed out an enormous handbook that has all of the information in it as well, that clearly defines what the role of the club is and what the role of CMSA is on match day. There is YouTube video resources as well as education that was also linked in that email that was sent to you. But I want to make sure to highlight a few things. There needs to be a technical lead from your club on site. This is vital. Okay? They organize the players into their match day groups. They modify the groups on match day through open rosters. Open rosters allow for players to move from team to team to team, and no one says anything. It allows the clubs an opportunity to find meaningful competition and to rebalance games when they need. Okay? Your rosters should not be fixed. It is also not a bad thing if your child starts on a field and moves and joins another group. Not a bad thing. Okay? It's not a bad thing. Oh, well, they just really want to play with their friends and these are their friends. Okay, cool. Can they go and learn to communicate with other humans? Because I would hate to see what they're like in a job market when all they've done is hang out with the same 8 people for their entire life. Okay? So don't worry. It'll be okay. Okay? They also are communicating to the parents any changes, right? They're ensuring that they've got the coaches. They're monitoring their coaches' behavior. And they're supporting the coach's behavior throughout, right? Ensuring equal playing time, ensuring a safe environment, and working with the opponent's teams and opponent clubs' technical leads to facilitate the games for children. You notice we use the word facilitate. Oversee, facilitate is different than coach, because the coaches are going to have to get on with the rules, to call fouls, to educate the players on that, to manage subs and do all of these pieces, okay? What do? Well, we determine where the clubs are at, we book all the fields, we schedule it all, and then we're on site as well on match day, okay? We set up and tear down all the fields, okay? We manage the timings, we have a first aid kit, we attend to any emergencies, etc., etc. And the match day process looks like this. Players should arrive and check in. Clubs have designated meeting places. They might have communicated this, or they might have said, hey, find this person, right? Then the club technical leagues are going to be organizing their groups and dispersing the groups to the appropriate fields. We have staff on site to make sure that we're trying to help this and to alleviate any of the dead spaces on the field. This happens every single year. Every single year. And I'll give you an example. Say all 14 of these fields will be going, which they will be at the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome. And I'm going to initially say I'm sorry if your children end up on field 11 or 7, because there's not a lot of Instagram angles to be had on those fields. You'll notice that we do not want parents breaking the white 11-a-side field markings on the field. We don't want you sitting in here. We don't want you sitting in here. We don't want you sitting between the fields, because it's a safety concern. And unfortunately, when you get hurt, our insurance is not about to cover you. So please get off the field. I can't say it more simple. We'll do our best to not have players stuck on 7 and 11, and instead to have them rotating to 1 or to 6, etc., so that parents can see, okay? But what I wanted to really talk about on this slide was this. Imagine that this game's going on and there's no team here. And this happens here and there. Kids go on holiday, they're sick, they're absent, they're whatever. There isn't enough players to field a team, but there is a team on here. Well, we will be doing our best as CMSA to be taking the 3 subs from whatever club this is and putting them over here so that they can play and so that this game can go on. And if there's another sub from there, we'll tell them as well, hey, go over here and play. Way better than sitting on the sideline. There's always a hesitation from club coaches to say, oh, well, this is my team. One, it's not your team. That's a grooming piece. So figure out your language. It's not your team. These are the players that choose to play there. You work with those children. These are my team. Well, we can't split them up. Who's going to go coach them? Do they need to be coached? There's probably another coach over here that can just facilitate the game, that we can work together. You're not some tactical mastermind at U7 and U8 that them playing a match day away from you is not going to spoil their development. I promise. I promise. And that unwillingness to cooperate kills it for everyone. We see it all the time with coaches, and it's really, really tough. So I'm giving people the awareness on here that this is not a best practice. I'll put it that way. The U9s, right? They'll play this way. The 7-a-side fields get divided in half, and they play there. You'll see in the middle, coach and player area. It doesn't say parents. Sit around the field, please. Please. It's always an awkward conversation when we say, hey, you got to get off the pitch. At the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome, this is a FIFA Pro-rated quality turf field. There's 2 in Canada. This is the only one in Western Canada. The other one, I think, is in Ottawa. Okay? We want to preserve the life of this pitch as much as possible. And the more that people are walking on it with their mucky shoes, garbage falls out of their pocket, they spill their coffee, they whatever, the quicker it has to be replaced. And replacing this is, I think, about $1.8 million. So you know where those funds come from, unfortunately. Okay, so we want to prolong this and make the game affordable. At Central and South, Calgary Soccer Center looks like this, right? Boarded field, you'll have 3 pitches on each, okay? And you will play in this direction. There will be a little goal there, and there will be a little goal there for the 7s and 8s, okay? You'll see player and coach area. Parents, there's stands for you. Enjoy the stands, enjoy the view. The U9s will play this way at both the Soccer Center and at Genesis, okay? Using the hole in the wall as the goal, and we will be moving out another goal there. We'll also put cones around the field that will designate an in and out line. Okay? As I've said, Genesis looks the same as the Soccer Center, so we don't need to spend any more time on that. Final pieces, and I'm appreciating that people are still sticking around. This is brilliant. We get asked all the time, where does the money go? Where does the money go? Well, this is the cost that, the revenue that CMSA brings in from the club on a per player basis. Okay, so $115.50 is what CMSA brings in. ASA takes $6 of that per player as their per player fee for insurance, for the rest of the programs, etc. that ASA has. What we have left over is that on a price per match day, that is your price, $7.82. Okay, someone's going to say, wait a minute, I didn't pay $115.50 to register my kid for soccer. You're right, you probably didn't. So ask the club, where does the rest of the cash go? This is what it is with us. Okay, so being really transparent. I'm going to be more transparent with the money piece. Where does it go? Where does that 109 change go? Well, the majority of it goes to booking fields for games, paying referees, and other league-related expenses, okay? There's also a piece that goes into a facility fund so that we can continue to fund future facilities, upgrades potentially, like that FIFA Pro Quality turf field that I just spoke about at the Shane Holmes West Soccer Dome, the Shoaldice Bubble, those facilities that we can help to try and fund as well. A portion goes back to Kids Sport because Kids Sport funds approximately $1 million per year in soccer registrations here in Calgary. Soccer is the largest benefactor from Kids Sport funding across Alberta, right here in Calgary. So we need to make sure that sport stays accessible for all, especially soccer. So we give a little back to Kids Sport as well. Alberta Soccer and Canada Soccer obviously take their cut, as I mentioned. A small portion goes towards referee development initiatives because we know that referees are a core part of the game as your children get older, and we want to make sure that they are high quality. And a small portion helps to come and pay for the CMSA staff to ensure Calgary Soccer's run efficiently, and we continue to try and innovate. We run as efficiently as possible, and we're continuing to try and find ways to be more efficient. Lastly, if or when it really should be an injury happens, here's the process you need to know. You have to go see a doctor and get a doctor's note or diagnosis. Okay, see a GP, see a walk-in, whatever, but that is needed for the insurance claims. Okay, you then fill out the insurance on on Alberta Soccer's website. Okay, that's where the form is, and you have to do that within the first 30 days of injury. Okay, that insurance will kick in after your own personal insurance is exhausted. Okay, and know this: physio and rehab expenses, if you've gone through it, obviously those could add up incredibly quickly. So make sure that you act fast and that you do fill out this form on Alberta Soccer's website. Okay. I'll leave this image up on your screen as I say thank you. I hope that David smashed out the rest of the questions in the chat. If you do have some questions, please feel free to populate those now, and we'll stick around for a few minutes and try and answer those. If you have any other questions, if you need anything, if you need clarity or anything like that, please email us at info@calgaryminersoccer.com, phone us, or visit our website. Our website has a ton of information on it that is a valuable resource for you. And what I would say about this image, and this is an image that I like to leave pretty well all of my presentations with, is we used to exist in this environment where clubs, governing bodies, etc., were pulling the game in any which direction, but together. And what we're seeing now is a togetherness within the game to continue to move the game forward, to continue to try and align. And if we do that and we're on a similar page, the game's going to accelerate and we're going to be able to pull it further, faster than you've ever seen. So again, thank you so much for your time tonight. I know that you could be anywhere in the world doing anything right now, and you've chosen to be curious and to find out more about, what we're doing and your child's soccer experience to come. I encourage you to follow us along on social media, and thank you so much for investing some time and energy into tonight. I'll jump into the questions quickly here. If there's anything that needs to be added. Encouragement is great. We want coaches, adults to encourage, right? Parents, if you're on the sideline, encourage, don't coach. Leave the coaching to the coaches. There's not we don't yell at kids when they're writing math exams. So we shouldn't be yelling at kids when they're stressed out with an opponent and teammates in a high pressure environment in a game. So think about what you're saying maybe before you say it. Type of shoes required depends on the location. Okay, mental note, I'll look to include that in next year's presentation. I would say a safe option, and I see David's kind of answered it there. A safe option, you'll find shoes with small rubber molded soles. They're good on flat carpeted surfaces like a boarded field that we have, and they're also good on a turf field as well. The hard studs, I'm looking around my office to see if I've got a pair close, which I don't. The hard studs, not good on a carpeted field. Okay, not good. So not a great idea. Okay, well, I'm going to shut things down for tonight. I appreciate everyone's curiosity and for going the distance with us tonight. Please, if you see us wandering around facilities, David or I, please tap us on the shoulder, introduce yourself, have a conversation, ask questions. We're more than happy to engage in conversation. And I just want to say thanks for everyone for being so respectful tonight, asking great questions, and we're looking forward to a fantastic indoor season with all of you. So thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing everyone on the pitch